shareholders, actually a couple of the shareholders was with us. And we looked in Grenada, we looked in Jamaica, we had a chance to see different places, but the prices of starting and the infrastructure and the way to get going was always beyond us. But with Zambia, we found the infrastructure is just amazing. There's roads everywhere and good roads everywhere. The culture itself is very compatible. It doesn't actually have, I found, and I think some people have spoke to me about it, let's see if I can do it this way. I found with Ghana or Nigeria, it has a very definite identity that's always prominent with you when you are trying to fit into something that may or may not be easy for you. In Zambia, although it has a vibrant culture, the culture wasn't, it was still very easy as people from the diaspora to mix and to mingle and to actually be a part of that situation. So that was a feeling I didn't have. And I worked in Ghana for about 7 years trying to set up a family home there, which it was done. But once we finished building it, very little of the family actually go there, which is another problem. So Central African location, I've said that already. The political stability in Zambia, the history of Zambia, is a really interesting thing. So in the 60s, we get into this time where there was a lot of independence was the talk following Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana. That was the talk. Everybody was after independence. Now, Zambia's came a few years later, but at the same time, they really built what they called a social experiment and were able to keep that social experiment going from 1964 right up to 1993, which in the scheme of things is just an extremely long time when you consider Kwame Nkrumah was ousted in Ghana within a decade. And that after that moved into something totally different, but they kept their social experiment, they called it, going for almost 30 years. And then when it was time for that to move into a more modern form of government, it was a very smooth transition. And the president of the time who had led independence and the social experiment is Kenneth Kaunda, and he's still alive and well and revered in Zambia today. But what it was is they have more of a general African culture as opposed to it's a Zambian culture. So when there was problems in apartheid, that's where they would go. Problems in Zimbabwe, that's where they would go to hide. So they've always had really good connections with the other African nations around them. So again, although it's landlocked, it actually works out to be a really good plus that they have such good trade and road connections with 8 other countries and historical connections across the continent. So that's a really big plus for Zambia. And you'll feel the difference if you're blessed to travel with us or travel by yourself. You'll feel the difference when you land. There's very fertile land and lots of natural resources. Again, that precluded us from the Caribbean because if you needed good land to grow, which the Caribbean has, but natural resources, the main industry in the Caribbean is tourism, which we don't necessarily want to be building our foundation on, because that means if those from a foreign don't visit, you don't eat. And again, another really good thing was businesses and partnerships and the opportunities that were on the ground. It's a very business-minded or industrial minded place where people are always trying to come up with ways to actually do business and trade together. So when you land and you want to trade, there's ample opportunities to do that. And we're building our investment portfolio as we speak. Also, it's really nice and modern. There's a nice a picture of that. We actually had sandwiches on that golden building the last time, just before I came back, actually. But that's one of the main high streets or the main street that's called Cairo Road in Zambia. So sometimes you get the feeling it's all dusty roads, and it really isn't. It's a lot, it's very well built up. You could be right at home almost immediately, particularly in Lusaka, and the things that we need whether it's the shops or the mall or whatever. It's all really very readily available, and it's not much of a culture shock. So it's not like you're going back and you're unable to live a life that you've become accustomed to. All of Africa is developing at an amazing pace right now. So most of the things that you'd be used to are still there. The difference is there is space and land to build new things that you design for yourself. That's just a feel of some of the land. And like I said, there's good roads that attach you, whether to different countries or different parts of Zambia. And we were able to travel quite a bit of it. There are good roads pretty much everywhere. This is one of our favorite locations. It's Zambia Beach. It's up in the north, and we acquired a piece of land not too far from here. But it's just such a wonderful, relaxing spot. This isn't a picture like of from a magazine or anything. I just stood where I was standing and took a picture with my phone. So it really is this beautiful, and it's very, very calming. It's actually a lake. It's not the sea, as we know, it's landlocked, but it gives us that opportunity to have relaxing spaces. And again, within Zambia, there are wonderful spaces for us to rest and relax and actually feel at home, particularly as Caribbean people. If I showed you that picture and told you it was somewhere in the Caribbean, you wouldn't have any trouble understanding that. It's very a wonderful spot, and whenever we go, we like to make sure we spend a few days down at Zambia Beach. Okay, so a new question. What has been our progress so far? So we've acquired some sites in different places, and I'll just like to run through those with you. So first of those is a place called Rafunza, where we have 617 acres. It's a mixed use site, but it's going to be our main agricultural location. It has some spaces for building business and residential buildings for those who will work up there, but we want to raise livestock, fish farm, and also grow cash crops at this location. We're working with the 617 that we've got now, but we also have land around that that has sort of been earmarked for us, but we want to become proficient with a small amount before we move on to any more. There's a quick video of me when I went to see it. Oh, did it not play?
This is me at a presentation land. And I'm just looking around. This is what it looks like to be in tons and tons and tons of acres and acres and acres of land. We've just driven around for like 5 hours trying to go through this plot. I know, I guess that's the best way to show you. This is land we can be growing on.
There you go. All right, so that's our agricultural space. And as I said, it wasn't, I was trying to show, but you can't get 617 acres without a helicopter in one picture. So hence that was the best I could do. Our second plot is in Mansa. And that's the one that's quite close to that Caribbean style beach that I showed you recently. So we have there 1,000 hectares of land, which is 2,400 acres. And that's in Mansa, which is the Luapula province. It's located north of the country, and it's a large tract of manganese mining land, and that's been acquired as a partnership with the local people. The manganese deposits we found at the surface were taken and tested by the Ministry of Mining, who found them to be of a high quality. We've now applied for our mining license and will soon undergo a full geological survey. So we've actually got our mining license now, but the geological survey, which is next, is when they actually get round to finding out the best places to start digging and actually making sure we've mapped out exactly all of the different minerals that are there, because there's more than just manganese. Once this is complete, we'll be in a position to seek outside finance and to begin a full-scale mining operation. This is us actually in that local community. This, those of you who visited Africa before will know when you go to see the chief, it's always in a circle, and we always sit round under a tree somewhere and have a conversation. So this was our group from the research trip meeting with the chief, who was just over the moon to have us there. And as I said, the partnership, when we spoke about that, he said nobody had ever come and actually offered a real partnership before. They would always come and want to give you 5% or 7% or whatever, or say they were growing, they wanted to come and grow A, but then come and do a full scale mining operation, taking hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars out and give the local community little or nothing. So he was very pleased with the idea that we had of actually partnering with him and the diaspora to actually build that mining reality there, and also just to help develop the local town. What you can see on the left of your screen is that's our certificate of incorporation for Next Level Developments in Zambia. And on the right is the letter from the chief, which has to be handwritten, cannot be typed, and sent to the government, which allowed us to actually take charge of that 2,400 acre spot. So that's him giving his stamp of approval to allow us to take that. And then once that goes to the government, then they send you your title documents off the back of that. So we're in the process of having that done, or we may actually have it already. I'll need to check. This is us on the mining land. It's 2,400 acres, so we didn't go all the way around it. It's a 2 or 3 day experience if you want to. But this was us on the corner, having met the chief, made our agreements, and then just taking a picture for prosperity. And here is our mining. This is what came back when we went to the Ministry of Mines. So I was actually there with my phone and took pictures of it. But on the left, I don't know, is that the left of yours? It's on my left is the black stone at the top. That's actually crystal. That's called black quartz crystal, and there's quartz crystal underneath. These stones are found at the surface, so we haven't even got round to going underneath where it will be more concentrated. But at the surface, this is what we were able to pick up. And on the right side is the manganese. So you can see it was, those are the two samples, sample 1 and sample 2, that are mentioned in the document. And what they actually said to me was, if you, the quantity that says MN, it's 61 and 75. What I was actually told was, when they went away to test, was as long as we get over 30, we've got a viable mine. And it came back at 60 and 61 and 66. So they were very excited, as were we. So we're really fortunate to get that piece of land, and we are going to be working to develop it. Now, the third piece of land we've acquired, it's a lot smaller. It's only 20 acres in a place called Makeni, which is Lusaka province. So if you think of Lusaka as the city, it's still in Lusaka, but it's outside of the city. It takes about 35 minutes, I guess, with the traffic to get to the city centre. And this is a partnership with a local family where we'll actually develop all of the site and keep 15 acres. So we've agreed with them, the cost price will actually build into our buildings. They'll take 5 acres and we'll keep the 15. So that's a really good deal for us. And it means we'll have 15 acres to actually build our first prototype community. It'll be nice and accessible to those malls and stuff I showed you. And it's also right on the, right inside of a really good road network that will allow us to get pretty much anywhere we need to get to. So that's something that's really exciting for us. And just to give you an idea of what 15 acres of residential land looks like, we have a good friend of ours who is building on a site in Jamaica, and he's been able to build 8 3-bedroom apartments up and down on 1/3 of an acre. So if you can get, 8 3-bedroom apartments on 1/3 of an acre, times that by 3, that sort of building model would allow us to get 24 on an acre. 24 times 10 is 240. We're not going to do that much. We won't be that dense, but we're looking to put maybe 100 homes, and that will give us that with a lot of space for the associated spaces and structures that we need. So talking about what the structures might look like, we have some ideas and we've been working on some prototypes. So this here is a larger site than 20 acres, actually, this would be. But then having said that, this is this kind of style or the building that we have in our minds to begin with. Obviously, as we move forward, that things may change, but this is a prototype we're working on. Once we get out of this coronavirus lockdown, we'll be in a space where we can actually go to the land with our building professionals and actually map out what the piece will be, but this is a prototype of the stuff that we want. So there are, you can see recreational spaces and some main buildings in the middle. That's our business center and our school. There's also sort of like a town hall building next